It's Wednesday, February 27th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, on this episode of Geeknights, we will be talking about a thing, and that thing is a comic about ponies. We're reviewing the My Little Pony comic.
I should just edit this episode.
Do you even know how?
Yeah, why not? Just take the WAV file, I chop out the...
Let's do this.
What? What? You got a problem? You're not happy with the way I'm running this operation?
We've already discussed this that 1,000 times.
We haven't done I think we might have done 1,000 episodes by now. I can't tell.
Many times it has been discussed.
But no, we are talking about the My Little Pony comic. Enough has come out to, review it, actually talk about what's good and bad about it. Mostly good. In fact, I like it a lot. I like it more than some episodes of season 3, but we'll get to that.
Any opening bits at all?
I don't know. I got nothing really important going on. Some friends are coming back from out of town.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's just do the show.
Let's just get right into it.
Quick show. Okay, so check this out.
I'm checking.
This is one of those things that's not quite news because it's not like a thing that happened now, but it's not really a thing of the day. It's sort of like, oh, there was an interesting editorial sort of research article on the Onion AV Club, right? And it talks about DuckTales invented a new animated wonderland that quickly disappeared. And it talks.
Is it just DuckTales or is it just that Disney afternoon in general?
He talks about the whole era, really, but focusing on DuckTales.
I consider that a golden age of animation.
He explains, whoever wrote this article, it might not even be a he. It's, Todd Vanderwerf. He wrote this article on February 11th, or he published it on February 11th, and he explains why there was this sudden, surge in syndicated animation for the after-school programming block of incredible high quality, beginning with Gummy Bears, and he talks about why it emerged, how good it was, and then why it disappeared. And it's like, oh yeah.
So can you spoil for me? Why did it disappear? Summarize, of course.
The primary reason that the Disney Afternoon...
Because I really, really miss DuckTales and Tailspin.
The primary reason the Disney Afternoon disappeared was it coincided with an executive shakeup at Disney, and those new executives wanted to push things that were using the same properties as the movie, such as Aladdin after-school cartoon and such.
That cartoon was awful, by the way.
Right, and that's it, right?
So how come? Well, no, not how come. We know why, because even in the non-animation world, if you back up into the meta, Scott, because while you don't care about these things, you listen to people bitch about it all the time. There's a show that nerds like, and it's on like Sci-Fi or Fox, and the nerds are like super into it, and it's super popular, and maybe it's even doing really well. And then suddenly it's canceled for no reason, even though it was actually profitable. Mm-hmm. And usually that's because there's an executive shakeup, and the new executives, more importantly than maybe anything else, usually want the stuff the old executives championed to fail so they can then point out how they're better. Some fashion like that. There's a long and storied
whatever those
history.
guys were doing, they fucked up, even if they weren't fucking up. Right? Basically, because think about it, when executives change, why do executives change? Don't think about what the executives are thinking, right? Think about why did the executives just change? It's because the board voted out the old guy and in with the new guy. If the board voted out the old guy and in with the new guy...
Well, there's two reasons why a bunch of executives change.
The board is expecting to see something new. And if the board, right, sees things get worse or not change, or they see that the things the old executives did were working better than the things the new executives did, that means the board voted wrong. You can't have that.
So you gotta make sure the thing from the old guys is bad and fails.
Yep, and then you got to make sure the new thing
is also bad and fails, because that's just how it goes.
Well, yeah, but appears to be an improvement, or at least is different. Otherwise, what did the executives vote a new guy in for, to do the same thing the old guys are doing?
There are other reasons why executives change like that, especially when a bunch of them change all at once.
A guy freaking retires.
No, that could cause it, but usually it's because if it isn't the board doing it, it's because a bunch of executives were either jumping ship to start their own thing or to go somewhere else.
That's sort of same as retiring.
I would not say it's the same, because here's the difference. It's
either the board voted them out or they left.
No, it's a big difference in the corporate world. If a guy or a group of people retire, it's because they were old or they're done or they're rich or something. If they all moved somewhere else or start their own thing, you've got a team that knows your business that is now directly competing with you and left because of some fuck up or some disagreement they had with you. So that's when a bunch of your executives leave and aren't retiring, that is a huge problem for you most of the time.
The problem of too many chiefs, not enough Indians has been around for centuries. So I don't think it's going to be solved anytime soon.
It's not just that. It's the problem of whenever a chief is doing something good, there's more chiefs that tell that chief to stop chiefing.
If you did whatever, let's just talk.
I mean, how many bronies are
The point
sitting
is,
here,
if you care,
they're like clenching
if you're
their fists
listening
in
to-
impotent anger, like Lauren Faust.
If you're a listener of Geeknights, this article
Is in your
guaranteed
wheelhouse?
to be of interest to you.
We should start a White House petition to get President Barack Obama to issue an executive order demanding that
DuckTales?
Tailspin and DuckTales be produced and returned on taxpayer dollars to broadcast television.
The government is perfectly legally able to put out bids for a contract to produce a television show.
There might be legal challenges about the public sector competing in private, whatever, but
Right.
I digress. I don't think we'd get the 100,000 signatures we'd need.
Or will we?
If we did, I'd love to see the response.
Anyway.
Anyway, so I've actually been watching a bunch of anime lately. You know,
I've been watching a bunch of anime, but it's only one anime. It begins with the word ghost and ends with the word shell.
doesn't it end with the word gig?
No.
What do you watch? What? Get Sack First Gig, right?
I watched the movie.
Which one? The first movie, right?
Right.
Did you watch Innocence again?
I will.
When was the last time you saw Innocence?
I only saw it once in the theater.
Okay, I will say this. I watched Innocence again
It's fucked the fuck up.
not that long ago,
Uh-huh.
but a while ago, and all I remember from Innocence that matters is that, holy shit, do I like watching Bato and Togusa talk about stuff.
That's all it is. It's
I-
99% of the movie.
I would watch a show that was just Bato and Togusa and occasionally Aramaki just quoting old Japanese and Greek scholars at each other for like 4 hours an episode.
That's all it is.
I dig that stuff. But yeah, are you watching this because of Google Glass? Because of Arise? All these things together? Why are you
Netrunner?
watching it again?
Netrunner?
Netrunner.
It's cyberpunk season.
It is cyberpunk season. The only reason I'm not watching Get Sack First Gig again, is that I recently watched it again.
Again.
And when it comes to anime, for a long time, every time I look at the list of new shows, all I think is, are any of these shows better than Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex Second Gig? Because that was the last anime I watched that I was super excited about. Well, Madoka I watched after that. So,
But you didn't think Monica was exciting until after you saw it.
yeah, but at the same time, I watch episode ones and I read, reviews if they're out there and people I care about these new shows. No one's really talking about them. But Madoka, after 4 episodes, people were flipping out on the internet, so I knew there was something going on.
I got new. Let's change the. Usually the philosophy is, hey, I'm only going to live to be whatever years old. I can't possibly read, watch, listen to everything that we've ever created, right? It's not going to happen. So I got to filter out and only get the best ofs, right?
Yep.
And hopefully I can get to most of the best ofs before I die. That are accessible to me.
Yep.
I got a new philosophy.
All right. What
I've
is it?
already seen all the best ones, especially in the anime department. Let's just fucking watch those fuckers over and over again because nothing new is going to be any good.
Well, the thing is,
I'm going to
did
be an old man. Your young punk kid's shit sucks. I'm going to keep watching my old man shit over and over.
We did do a show a long time ago on the rewatch because it seems like anime is a thing in particular. That specific fandom where fans will perennially, and I know all of you out there listening have done this, but like, you know what? I haven't seen X show in a few years. I think it's time to watch it again.
Well, look at
How many people think that for like Seinfeld? Like, man, I should watch season 4 of Seinfeld again.
Well, the rewatching Utena here, right? Is like it's like a new show, basically. Seen
I
it
watched
again.
it more recently again than you, and I've seen Utena
I haven't seen it since college.
through 5 times, I think.
I haven't seen it since college.
So this will be the 6th time through.
My 1.5 times seeing it.
Yeah. But the problem is, and I always go back to my go-to example is Kaze no Yojimbo. Because I was watching that on Netflix DVDs when I would commute Metro North. And in fact, I was watching it on a portable dedicated DVD playing device, not a laptop, because that device had way more battery than my laptop.
I watched like a handful of episodes of that and then stopped.
Yeah, so I was watching it. It was pretty good. But then an episode ended and I was sitting there and I was like, I guess I should watch the next one to, so I can finish the show and send the DVD back. And then I got home and I was dicking around and I just kind of randomly watched one episode of Cowboy Bebop.
You mean 26 episodes of
Yeah,
Cowboy
pretty
Bebop?
much. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck Kaze no Yojimbo. I'm done watching B- anime.
Yeah.
I'll watch B anime because a B anime is better than most stuff. But anyway, I've been watching a bunch of anime lately, and Space Brothers is super good and super fun, and I'd recommend you watch it. It'll make you really excited about space. But the thing I'm watching right now that I can't say if it's good yet, but it's given me a lot of feels I haven't had from an anime I've watched in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's Shin Sekai Yori, or From the New World.
Okay.
No one's really been talking about it, but here's the basic deal.
Watch, people are going to come out in the forum and be like, everyone's been talking about the show. Where you been?
Yeah, I poked around. Not many people are talking about it.
Okay.
So it's set up in sort of a nearing future, like around this time, or maybe the Madoka time, like that level of near future. And suddenly one day, a whole bunch of people, like individual people, like in one city, like maybe 20 or 30 people, just suddenly get Akira-style psychic powers and start accidentally killing everyone around them.
Okay.
And then it shows you that, and it's just a bloodbath. It just doesn't work out so well. It's not looking so good. And then suddenly it just stops, and then the show starts. And the show looks like it's set in ancient Japan. But really, it's the far future, like 400 to 800 years after that day. And it's basically a post-apocalyptic show, but it's post-apocalyptic as in a psychic apocalypse ruined the world. Society in Japan rebuilt based on weird old Japanese legends and myths and sort of these Shinto rituals and things.
To avoid another psychic apocalypse?
Yes, but all based around the psychic stuff. It's creepy. It's weird. It's atmospheric. If I had to say shows it reminds me of, I'm going to have to say a lot of really different shows. It reminds me of Bokurano in that it's got a bunch of kids surrounded by tragedy and high production values and good music. It reminds me of Mushishi because the psychic stuff and the world around these kids has that sort of mythical self-consistency, and just the stories and the monsters and the things in the outside really just feel like Mushishi if all the Mushi were actually really just assholes.
A lot of them are.
It reminds me of Number 6, which is the show Scott and I were watching with Emily that was all about a sort of like there's domes in the future with society living inside of them.
There's like 20 shows like that.
Yeah, that show started
Ergo
out
Proxy
awesome.
And
it started
Big
out a
O.
lot like this, where there's also, precursor technology, the inside outside like Ergo Proxy had. But that show got stupid. Way stupid. Not worth watching stupid. So this show reminds me of all of those shows. And so far, I really like it because it's given me a vibe that I haven't gotten from many shows ever, let alone recently. The vibe of, I want to, me Rim, watching this show, figure out what the fuck is going on. Shows that have given me that included Escaflowne, Utena,
every good show has a terrible secret of space.
Yeah, well, Cowboy Bebop had the terrible secret of space is not the one you care about secret.
Still had a terrible secret of space.
It wasn't a terrible secret of space. It was a terrible secret of a few people.
You know what show has a terrible secret of space?
I was going to make a joke and say Space Brothers, but
All
you
the
haven't
good
seen
shows. The end.
it. So I'm feeling the show, and I just want to point out that it's directed by the kind of person that tends to make the kind of show that I end up really liking. Masashi Ishihama is one of those guys who is a key animator and animation director for a huge list of just shows all over the place. And those are the kinds of people who, in my experience, tend to make the shows that I actually like. And I point out he also did the character design and the animation direction for Welcome to the Space Show, and it kind of shows when you watch this, especially when you meet the library. So yeah, that's a Geek Bite. If you're looking for an anime to watch, this is the best one that isn't Space Brothers that I've seen from recent seasons of anime.
Don't you have an actual news in addition to your Geek Bite?
No, this is my Geek Bite.
I thought you had a news as well.
We could talk about Otakon.
Yeah.
So, I saw a tweet a few days ago, a week, however long ago it was. The tweet was basically, they announced Otakon Vegas, and I thought that was a joke.
I didn't know if it was a joke or real. I was 50-50. I had to investigate to figure it out.
So
It's real.
yeah, it is real. Not really sure what to say about that. I wish them well.
I do think that
I think it's a mistake.
Las Vegas does have a gigantic convention center where CES is, and I do think that Vegas was the one place that was desperately lacking a geek convention that could support one.
But I don't know if Vegas is the right place for an anime convention.
Right, because
Especially,
the other things in Vegas, you don't necessarily want mixing with geeks, right? When those geeks walk out of that convention center, they're going to a casino full of tourists and casino dwellers. And it's not gonna necessarily mix so well.
I don't think that's the problem.
It's not like when you go out on the street and people are friendly and like, hey, why is everyone wearing costumes, right? It's a bunch of drunken gambling
See, no, I don't
people.
actually think that's the problem at all. I have much.
That's one of the problems,
I don't even.
of which there are many.
No, I don't even register that as a problem because I can have there is an equivalent problem in the same wheelhouse. I'm just gonna keep saying that word. For almost every place in America, you can have a convention. Baltimore, it's a shithole.
Yeah, you just don't leave that tiny area.
Boston, there's either the Heinz that's too small and has problems with the mall next to it getting mad about stuff, or the BCEC, which is a spaceship all by itself in the middle of nowhere. That problem exists everywhere. No, my concerns are more along the lines of Otakon seems to try to actually continue to be an anime convention focused on anime. Yes, it is true. They have East Asian stuff that's in their charter, but most of it's anime. The vast majority of it is East Asian stuff, and the stuff they have that is not directly in that sort of wheelhouse is such a small percentage of the total content that they can get away with, not messing up their 501c3. Which, if you run conventions, you probably know exactly what that means. But my problem is that there aren't that many conventions that can do anime like that and grow large and continue to draw people because other than Anime Boston, Otakon, and maybe 5 or 6 others, most other, quote, anime cons have a ton of non-anime content because that's what most people are at most conventions for. So if their charter's the same and they're going to make a new convention in Vegas, the only reason to put it in Vegas, really, is if you think it will get big enough to use the big convention centers there.
Oh, you think that's a good question, right? Because the Otakon brand is mostly strong. It's not really a national brand. It's mostly a Northeast brand.
Dude, I know
and
people who
even
live
here,
in Baltimore who are anime fans who had never heard of it.
Exactly.
Which
so you
freaks
think
me
in
out, but
Vegas,
that's,
who has heard of it? And is it going to be mostly people flying from here to Vegas to go, I don't know.
They've said they want to keep it small to start.
Okay.
In fact, they want to make a smaller and more intimate setting.
But then what if it gets too big? And if it's small, what's the point of being in Vegas?
Exactly. That's why I'm curious what was the course of events internal to the Otakon staff that led to someone saying, let's have a new satellite convention branded Otakon and run it in Vegas?
Really want to go to Vegas, or thinking long term, right? It can grow and someone could actually make use of that convention
It could.
center.
Otakon uses the BCC in Baltimore to capacity.
Yeah, they grew into it, so they think they can repeat the winning formula.
I don't know if a purely anime con could, though. Otakon is big partly because of momentum and because of history.
And because of big guess.
And I have logistical concerns, too. Partly because I know Otakon's staff culture, and I don't foresee them paying to fly a large number of their seasoned staff out there to organize this
If it's
thing.
small, they won't need that many, and they could use the con money.
Well, see, saying you don't need that many is a recipe for disaster.
You need less than Otakon needs.
Yeah, but you need to send like your core staff to manage the thing to do it the same way you run it in the other coast. So I don't know. We'll see how this whole thing goes. Now, this is purely speculative. If I had to guess as to why Otakon is doing this, and I do not have access to the staff forum anymore, this is based on no inside information I have whatsoever. I'm literally guessing, 100% speculation. They are a 501c3. They have a charter.
So are most cons.
Yes. Now, I'm of the opinion that
cons.
it is, in the modern era, a mistake to be a nonprofit. You're better off being a for-profit because then you can do whatever the fuck you want, even if you end up effectively being a nonprofit. But that, Kineticon, PAX, all the other cons that we're involved with for the most part are for-profit. At least we're involved on the staff level. So because they're a 501c3 and they have a charter, 501c3s can get in trouble if they make too much money and don't reinvest it specifically into furthering their charter.
You think Otakon made too much money?
In the long run,
Pretty sure they spend all their money.
Oh yeah, but it is possible that their bank account, their sort of like fund of emergency money and profits over time, especially in light of my guess that over time there'll be fewer Japanese guests just because there's less demand for them and stuff like that. And I know they do really well to get Japanese guests, better than most cons. I would not be surprised if they were advised to start another event somewhere and funnel some money into it. And I would not be surprised if, independent of that, some people were wined and dined and it was suggested that Vegas would be a great place for it, and they might not have thought it all the way through.
There's plenty of other ways you can dump a whole bunch of money into the mission of Otakon besides a con in Vegas.
I know. This is me literally just speculating based on nothing and based on the 501c3 discussions I have had internal to other conventions in the past that have led to similar decisions.
Okay, so some crazy random guessing.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I was very open about this being crazy random guessing.
All right.
But what's interesting is they're having it at the Planet Hollywood Resort, and they're making it
I thought
family.
that doesn't exist anymore. I thought Planet Hollywood went bankrupt.
I don't know where you get that information from.
I'm going to look it up.
I've never heard that in my life. In fact, they have announced specifically Otakon Vegas will be held at the Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So you're probably wrong.
The company has gone bankrupt twice. Nearly 100 stores have closed worldwide, leaving about 9 open. Ah, really? So one of the 9 is that one.
Anyway, things of the day. What do you got for me?
It's not for you. So, yesterday I saw something that was the greatest something I have seen in a long time. It was something on the internet that actually provided lols. Something as good as Lord of the Rings on the go. Something of that level of goodness. And what this thing is, it was a thread on Board Game Geek. Board game boxes with googly eyes.
This is pretty good.
I really want to know, like, the biology and neuroscience of why googly eyes are so funny.
I think it's pretty simple. Googly eyes may take anything and make it less threatening.
Why does it make it funny?
Because if it's less threatening, you're looking at some crazy ogre, roar, that might be threatening. Suddenly you make it less threatening with googly eyes?
Why is that funny?
Because of
why
the
is less funny
because
humorous?
of the juxtaposition between something that should be dangerous now suddenly being made non-dangerous.
But not everything on these boxes is something dangerous.
Are you kidding? Almost every one of those things is dangerous.
Anyway, so board game boxes with googly eyes put on them. This is amazing. Even if you don't know the board game boxes, it's still hilarious, especially Connect 4, which you do know. Dune is the best one. Everyone thinks the same thing when they see that one. It's amazing. You got to check this out, and I suggest maybe checking it out while you're on your iPhone in the bathroom, so that way if you pee from funniness, you'll be safe.
There's one in particular. You'll know it when you see it. We did some very intense focus testing last night during our Burning Wheel game, and we discovered that is, in fact, the best one.
The one I just mentioned?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got a pretty cool thing. I'm using Tumblr more and more, and a friend of ours reblogged this. So this is a bunch of art in the little Golden Book style almost of Avengers characters as Sailor Moon characters that are surprisingly faithful to the ideas of both of them simultaneously. And the art is just ridiculously good. If you're a fan of either one of those things, you should look at this art. Mm-hmm. I would watch a show. In fact, I would pay a lot of money to see a show that was animated that looked even close to this.
Sailors assemble.
I don't even care what the show's about. I just want to see animated characters like this doing whatever it is they're going to do.
I think the new Powerpuff Girls is going to look kind of like that.
I know. I'm kind of excited about it. But I
just wanted to bring back him.
You mean Akio?
Right.
Yeah. Bonus points if you look at this and you recognize the Sailor Starlights and know why that's hilarious.
Okay.
You got a meta in the meta moment?
There's a lot of meta moments. Meta moment number 1. The book club selection is The Player of Games by Ian M. Banks. It is the most Geeknights book a book can be. That is why it is now in the book club. You should read it if you listen to this podcast. End of story. Also, in the meta moment, the next convention on the calendar is Penny Arcade Expo EAST 2013.
We are presenting Mastering Game Mechanics. We are presenting Practical Game Theory. We may be presenting third unannounced event.
Come to that. Actually, if you don't already have tickets and things, you're in big trouble because you're not going to be able to come to that. But
Yep, and if you want to see our events, it's in a smaller room than usual. I can't guarantee we'll video them because there's no stage.
Line
so
up.
Get there early or you may not ever see them. We may not ever run them again.
Other meta moments, we have this email newsletter that's actually been doing pretty well for a while now. But apparently some people had Gmail automatically spam it or mark it as spam. I sent one out today. So if you are subscribed, check your spam folder and see if the newsletter's in there and mark it as not spam. Anything else we got going on at all? Oh, right. There is
the Geeknights Grand Prix.
The Grand Prix.
Scott's baby.
If you want to see if your gaming skills are greater than or less than other listeners of this show, you need to enter into the Gaming FRC First Annual Grand Prix 2013.
However this goes, it is 100% Scott. I got nothing to do with it other than I am competing.
It's going to be very smooth. I don't know see why you seem to be skeptical of it.
I'm not skeptical at all. I was just stating a fact. I'm totally down with this.
Anyway, you have until tomorrow to registrate. I thought about letting people register late and then you could just enter in late and score zeros for the rounds you missed. I might allow that still, but really,
Don't count on it.
If you want to have a chance of winning, you have to register and play right away. You have to join the forum, and then you have to, just post in that thread that you want to join, and your forum name will be your name on the Google Doc. A lot of people are trying to join the forum lately, and some people, when you sign up to join the forum, you put in the reason for joining.
Yeah, if you write something that looks like something a spam bot would write, I'm going to decline you. I'm pretty sure I declined someone who in retrospect might have been a human, but I really couldn't tell.
Yeah, there are some people who've been writing things that are sort of borderline. Like one person wrote I think PAX question, and they wrote PAX with not all capitals.
Yep.
And it was just 2 words, and it's like, okay, that could be a person with a question about PAX, but they didn't put PAX in all capitals.
One guy was just,
they didn't use any punctuation.
It was just video games, all one word, no punctuation.
Yeah, it's like you gotta write, if you want me to accept you, spam is a bigger problem lately. One person even snuck through with their promotional shilling of something. You need to write a full sentence with correct grammar, punctuation.
Maybe you should update the prompting on that page.
I don't know how to. I gotta figure that out.
Figure that out, because you should say something like, write something and give them a prompt. I know some other vanilla forums do that where they'll say, it won't just be, prove to me you're human. It's like, prove to me you're human and mention something about X. Or prove that you're human with a complete, fully formed, grammatically correct sentence.
Yep. Anyway, with a subject, predicate, etc.
Yeah. But no, if you cannot differentiate yourself,
if you got a denied email maybe, then you should try again and write something proper.
For example, write something along the lines of, "Yeah, I listened to the show and now I know why you rejected me. I'm sorry."
Or, I have been a listener of this show for X period of time, and now I would like to join the forum.
Not PAX info, Louis Vuitton.
Bagger. Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, New York.
Lately, I've been getting one that looks like it's the terms of service for another website.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, talking about ponies. I haven't talked about ponies on the show for a while.
You're looking for any excuse to bring ponies back into Geeknights.
Actually, no. There hasn't been any other comic or media we haven't already reviewed that both of us are consuming at the same time.
That's true.
So we're big fans of My Little Pony: Friendship of Magic. In fact, we have a sister show we launched a while ago called Radio Free Equestria that might get some updates soon. We just haven't had time to kind of finish that show out for the season. But good old Katie Cook did a comic.
Katie Cook is someone that I have known about for a very long time because her art skills were amazing and always improving. Even when I first found out about her art skills were amazing. They've only gotten better. And she does things such as the online webcomic Gronk.
Which is hilarious.
She also did a lot of these sketch cards. So, for example, what the sketch cards are, she did this for a long time. I don't know if she's done it recently. It's, let's say, for example, you went and bought, collectible cards that don't play a game. I know those still exist, right? Amazing. For something like Indiana Jones, like when that non-existent movie came out, they had collectible cards you could just buy. And if you bought those cards at a comic book store, which comes in a direct market box as opposed to the kind of box that they would send to Target, which is a different box, there was a chance that in that box, somewhere in one of those packs, would be a card that was a sketch card, which is basically they sent her a blank card. She actually drew on it, and then they actually inserted it into there somewhere. So she used to do a lot of those. Her webcomic is awesome. At conventions, she does a thing where you give her $5 and she paints a little tiny thing on a card. I got Rim, before she even did the pony comic, I got Rim a narwhal.
It is a pretty great narwhal.
I got Emily a bunny, and I got me a Rainbow Dash. Even before she did a pony comic.
Of course.
But now, of course, that person ended up writing the pony comic.
Yeah, the first 4 issues.
And Andy Price ended up arting the pony comic.
Now, Katie Cook is credited with some art for the first issue, but I never really figured out what she did in there compared to, there's 2 credits for issue 1 and then 1 credit for 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Just so you know, I didn't look into it.
She did some of there are so many variant covers on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right? I know she did some of the variant covers, and in fact, some comic book stores get sketch covers. She had a stack of these comics, pony comics, with blank covers, and she drew on each one differently.
Man.
And one comic book store got those.
So, I'm digging this. As a comic, I enjoy it mightily.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of actually the Simpsons comic, right? Because what the Simpsons comic is
you're right.
to the Simpsons show, right, is they take the show, the characters, the foundations, right? But they get a little bit nerdier, a little bit more inside baseball because it's a comic book, and they're a little bit more free to explore, right? The art style is a little different, just like the Simpsons comic is.
I really like the art style. It's that kind of super detailed. There's crap everywhere in the background.
It's sort of the Sergio Aragonés thing going on, where everything in the background all over the place, right? And yeah, it's pretty great. And it's like, well, if the show feels like it has a more broader appeal and is simpler, and the comic is more like a more. It's not. It's.
Well, I'll put it this way: it is definitely like the Simpsons comic. I would say it is aimed at someone who is already a fan of My Little Pony.
Yeah,
I don't see many people just reading the comic and not having watched or planning to watch or are watching the show.
Yeah, it doesn't really introduce you to the characters at all, right? It totally expects you to know the show already.
And by the same token, I mean, who reads the Simpsons comic but doesn't watch the show? Has never watched the show.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it is definitely aimed, so it's aimed at the fan, but simultaneously, it's not the fan service that you see so often when you get a thing like this around something that has a big specialized fandom.
Yeah, it's not like a fan comic where it's aimed squarely at like the older, unintended audience. Like this is definitely aimed at the same audience as the show.
I would say it might be aimed at a slightly older audience than the original demographic of the show.
I don't know. I see a lot of little kids reading this.
I do too, but I see a lot of little kids watching Vampire Hunter D and RoboCop.
I'm talking about real little, like 3.
I don't think you've seen 3-year-olds reading this.
Real little. The littlest.
I don't think you have any concept of
the kind
ages of
who
children.
legitimately will play with pony toys for real.
So anyone between the ages of 6 and 40.
Are you playing with your pony toys? You're just letting them decorate your desk at
Well, I
work?
currently don't have any.
Oh.
I don't have a Celestia to throw at my Sky Castle.
Sure. So
the comic is just, I like the story. It's really faithful to the characters, and it, like Scott said, it gets its snark on and its inside baseball on just enough more than the show to where I would actually like it if the show were more like this comic from this point forward than the other way around.
But anyway, so what happens in the comic, right? So the comic,
Which, by the way, I established via Twitter that we can effectively consider this comic canon.
yeah, that Katie Cook said so.
So that raises complications because you know what the plot of 5, 6, 7, and 8 written by someone else are? You know what it is?
What is it?
Quote, a new Nightmare Moon has appeared.
Uh-oh.
Uh,
We'll see what happens there. But anyway, so the plot of the first 4 issues here is basically let's fight against the changelings again, right?
Yep. I love seeing the changeling queen just being herself in long form as opposed to being the villain in just like 1-2-parter.
Yep.
She's a great character.
Yeah, it's like by actually giving the villains more screen time. In fact, issue 3 is from the villain's perspective. You can really go into those characters more because they didn't get a lot of time in the show.
There's this great moment where she's kidnapped the CMC, so they're hanging out.
And she's just it's one of those typical stereotypical things of, I've kidnapped some people and they are bothering me.
Yep. But the thing is, they're so perfectly on character that it's brilliant. And you can almost hear Sweetie Belle's voice.
Yep.
Like
but
even,
it reminds me a lot of that Rarity episode of the show where Rarity was bothering the dog dudes.
True. But in particular, what I like about that bit is there's this one little bit where, the CMC is basically just commenting on what Chrysalis is doing and being annoying about it. And they're like, well, aren't you just like, why didn't you do X? Because that's what evil people do. And she's like, you realize I'm evil for a reason. Like I have a plan. I'm actually after something. I'm not just evil to be fucking evil. And they couldn't get that. And I just thought that was a nice little touch.
Yep.
It's like take the Disney villain and give him an actually realistic motivation.
Mm-hmm. And there's also a nice mix of taking things from the show and sort of reusing them, like the old split the characters up and then they get together with their powers of friendship.
But the fact that almost immediately afterward, all of them independently are like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure we got broken up due to changeling shenanigans.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't have split up. Let's go find each other.
But, that kind of stuff where it's like they got stuff from the show, but also new things. So it's like, this is clearly Pony comic, but this is also clearly not just the show again in a comic. It is also a new thing.
Now, there aren't that many issues out yet. There aren't going to be that many issues. I mean, Katie Cook's only writing the first 4, and then there's that other plot, and it's going to be like, comic books are.
There's 2 actual comics.
Oh, we're going to talk about the micro series.
There's a micro series where each issue focuses on a single character, and it gives you a one character related to nothing side plot. I don't know if these are canon or not. The first one we've read already is about Twilight Sparkle, and it gives you this story about Twilight in a library. Okay. It was okay. But it's like those are actually the kinds of things I would like to see as episodes of the TV show, right?
Yeah.
These sort of plots.
Well, I have this hope because you realize The Simpsons got to that point once it just been running long enough.
Yeah, they'd be like a Moe episode.
And that's when
Barney
The Simpsons kind of hit a really nice stride before its eventual decline.
Quilts and quills.
So while a lot of
sofas and quills.
So while a lot of people have some problems with the current season of My Little Pony, people say it's not as good as other seasons, and I'm not going to debate that here. Though I kind of agree, but not 100%, and not for the same reasons you assholes do. But I hope that the Pony show continues long enough to get to that point where they do the 5 Short Graybles style episode or the Pulp Fiction style episode. The kinds of like, let's mess up the format or just follow one character things that The Simpsons started doing hardcore like season 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, or the Dexter's Lab.
Oh my God.
Episode.
That episode
the
of
really
Dexter's
high
Lab.
concept shit. That I appreciate much more as an adult now than I did as a child. The artistic masterpiece that it is.
I tried to like shuffle my nose, like do my sniffle in that pattern, and I think I just hurt my lung. My lung kind of hurts now.
Okay.
But no, all that aside, this comic is pretty great. I would say if you're not a fan of My Little Pony, like you're one of those people who somehow held out, you know what? You should try reading the comic. It's cheap.
I guess you could read an issue, but really, it's more if you're a pony person and you're watching the show, you have to read the comic.
Well, no, I would say if you're not a fan of the show, read the comic because, one, a few people I know who have publicly said they're not fans of the show privately admitted they actually do watch the show, which is weird. But
what?
Yeah, someone we might know who says they don't like the show. Anyway, so even if someone's not a pony fan, this comic's pretty funny and standalone in the same way that if you hand some random person the Simpsons comic, even though it's not really aimed at them, I could see them enjoying it and then later on going to watch the Simpsons.
I read a couple Simpsons comics every year. I'm not going to go get them all because it's just too goddamn many because that thing's been going nonstop for years. But it's like I read one once in a while and they're always mildly humorous.
Yeah, these kind of stand on their own. But no, Scott's right. These are really aimed at if you are already a fan of My Little Pony in any stretch. there is no reason for you to not read these.
That's right.
Even if you're only a casual fan, you've only seen a few episodes, if you know anything about ponies and liked it at all, you should read this comic.
Mm-hmm. You probably actually need to watch the Chrysalis episodes to understand the story.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can. It's one of those things.
Like
where
if you don't know, if you haven't seen at least one CMC episode with Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo, you won't understand. Right?
I think it's more that with many secondary works like this, if you or like when I read that horrible Green Lantern thing. Horribleness aside, there were bits that were actually pretty well done that I didn't get because I hadn't read other Green Lantern bullshit.
But that was a Green Lantern that was told to me was a Green Lantern you could read not having read anything
But
before.
at the same time, I could read it and get it without knowing those things. Those things would just enhance it. Much like how you can totally just watch Wolverine and the X-Men knowing nothing about the X-Men, and it is a great show. But if you know anything about the X-Men, it is so much better because of the little sort of bits and the important parts. The fact that Scott Summers...
the Juggernaut beat.
The fact that Scott Summers is the loser loner who's tearing everything apart and Wolverine has to get the team back together.
All right, anyway.
The irony of that is lost on someone who doesn't read a lot of X-Men, but you can watch the show with or without that. It just adds. Knowing the personalities of the 3 different CMC makes this comic way better. Not knowing them does not prevent you from enjoying it and figuring out that.
Why did she kidnap those 3 annoying ponies? Why aren't they freaking out?
I don't know. Maybe ponies just don't freak out. You don't see a lot of ponies freaking out in this comic. Who freaks out?
My Little Pony is about nothing but ponies freaking out. That's what the show is.
In fact, Rarity keeps her cool surprisingly well when those flowers attack.
That's a problem.
I think we're done. There's not much to review without just spoiling the crap out of the what? 3
it's not
issues
even
we've read?
Yeah, it's like, come on. And I'm kind of hungry and want to go home.
Okay.
I don't want to do a long episode.
There might not be shows next week. I might be in Colombia, so we'll see.
Colombia. You know what happens if you go to Colombia? I play more Netrunner.
But I'll tell you all this. We have like 4 episodes of Geeknights Presents Shoujo Kakume Utena videoed, ready for post-production. I've just been too busy to finish editing them. So.
Maybe you should watch some Not There Utna.
Some of that there Utna?
Some Not There Utna.
I got one dude already who complained about how we pronounce Utena.
Except the way Wakaba pronounces it is Utena.
All things aside on that debate, yes, Japanese does not have inflection like other languages do. But at the same time, someone who speaks English and speaks Japanese words will tend to speak it with an accent. In this case, an English or American accent.
Auntie says Utena-sama, which is Utena. Utena-sama.
Utena has a slight emphasis on the te, the way I said it. Utena is not how they say it in Japanese either, and Utna is ridiculous. So,
have we told where that there Utna comes from?
That there Utna is going to get saved for another time. But let me tell you, I heard a man say...
I thought you weren't there. I thought this was a story that was secondhand from Laura.
Laura? I thought it was from Luke.
No.
Are we that old?
I don't know.
Do we not know the origin of this?
Maybe this isn't true.
I have this clear memory of Luke and someone else being in a conversation, and Luke said something like, yeah, he's a fan of that there Utna, making fun of him saying it that way.
I don't know.
I think we're old. I think it's over. It's the end of the party.
Some guy said he was a fan of that there Utna.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.